Hello, Moto America fans, and welcome to this latest episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You can probably tell by the dulcet tones of my voice that I am not Carruthers. I am Bice, the sidekick to Paul Carruthers, who is the communications manager for Moto America. And I am introducing him today. Hey, Paul, how's it going?
I'm good. It's a little early out here in California. You guys are back there and been up for like 6 or 7 hours, I bet, and I'm just kind of crawling out of bed. But no, everything's good here. It's we get to go race again here pretty soon, and we get to do so with fans, which will be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, our first round really went off without a hitch in terms of on track and all our great TV coverage, and we got a lot of fans tuned in around the world actually, and now we're going to get to have a lot of those fans at the track with us, which clearly adds a lot of energy to us and absolutely the riders out on the track. They love having the fans there, especially at that track. So we'll be going to Bratland again pretty soon. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a little cool here, and you said it's been cool in Southern California. I know we kind of always talk about the weather on these podcasts, but they say that when this end of June is probably even more of an ideal time to go to Road America than maybe our first round was. So I'm looking forward to that, right?
Yeah, it's always usually that last weekend in May, the first weekend in June. It's been really hot out here actually, but it finally has cooled off a little bit. No, it'll be good. I think that first, honestly, it's like I was telling the guys at work. I thought that first weekend may have done more for us than any other weekend that we've ever had, as far as like um, international coverage. I mean, it obviously helped that there hasn't been a lot of live sporting events going on, and especially we were the first motorcycle race. So I think I mean, we just got so much attention from overseas, which I think is really good, because I think it just people can get with the Eurosport thing, people can get an idea of what Moto America is, and they get to see how good the racing is, and then I think they just stick around and become fans. And it's nice that we've got that Eurosport deal for the rest of the year. Obviously, Fox Sports is very happy with us. They've given us great. They're giving us live TV, and it's just worked out really well. I just think that one event, even though we didn't have fans, was just really, really a good event for Moto America. And I think now we can go back to Wisconsin and have our fans. Obviously, we're still going to be abiding by, the rules that we now live in. But at least we'll get to do that with fans. So I think it'll have a different feel than the last one. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting about how we were able to get our season started, and I had this rattling around in my head the best way to kind of say this because I certainly didn't want to say, well, obviously this COVID-19 is a terrible thing for the world, and a lot of lives have been lost and people have been sick. So we of course we don't want to make light of that. But was talking to my wife about this, and she kind of said, I guess you can look at it as maybe the silver lining for us is that there was an opportunity that presented itself to us, and we were able to work with that. So we're not certainly trying to diminish what has happened, but like you said, it's given us an opportunity to kind of show something that we already know, which is that our racing is world class and very exciting to watch. I mean, motorcycle road racing in general, but for our series in Moto America, it's compelling all the time, and it's great to get the exposure and have people kind of discover what we've been knowing for a while here. So,
Well, yeah,
um,
and it's also another way to look at it is, you're providing these people with something that they haven't had in a while. I mean, everyone gets stuck in their house, and they can't do this and can't do that, and obviously you turn on your television and you try to find any sporting event, and you're watching the 1984 Rose Bowl or whatever. I think when we were able to provide them, live racing on TV, I think that's pretty cool, and I think it's. I don't want to go over the top and say we're providing such a great service that enhances their life, but I mean, come on, it's entertainment, and it's something that they would enjoy, and like I said, it's something that they've done without for so long. I think they were just starving for it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so let's bring in our guest, which I think this is interesting that we're going back to Road America for the second round. Our guest is Trig Westby. It's John Trigby Westby is his full name for people that might not know that he kind of goes by a shortened version of his middle name. and Trygve, he's Norwegian, so that's where that background comes from. And Trig is the team owner of Westby Racing, obviously. And one of the cool things about Road America and going to Wisconsin is there actually is a town called Westby, Wisconsin, which has something to do with Trig's name. So let's bring him in, and I want to ask him about that to start with, as well as starting kind of off where his passion for motorcycles started. Trig, thanks for joining us on this podcast.
No, I'm really honored to be here.
Tell us about Westby, Wisconsin. That's your family, right?
Yes, sir. It is. It's quite a story. It was basically my one of my relatives had basically a feed store type deal, groceries and just all sorts of stuff, and they're running a railroad line close. And this guy said, "Let's just run it by this store. It's way easier than driving over here. Let's run the railroad line right through this place, and we get our supplies and stuff." So that's what happens. I did it through there and then made a town out of it, called it Westby, Wisconsin. That's how my relatives got involved in the whole deal. Was they were basically just had a store. The railroad guys wanted to go close, so they did. So we went through there and made a town out of it. That's where it came from.
That's funny. Trig, one of the things we know from just going up there, and Minnesota's the same way. That part of the country, there are a lot of Scandinavian people there. Is that one of the reasons that your family is, or that name is from that area?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's just where it came from. They came over here, immigrated from Norway, and started, farmers, and that's what they did. They started farming the land and, went from there. So, and then of course we ended up in the oil business, but that's a whole different story anyway.
Well, we want to hear about that story too. So then the next part of it is the fact that you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I think you've spent your whole life there, haven't you? I mean, that's where you're from. So tell us about your background with being in Oklahoma.
Well, like I say, it's the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So here I am. My father had basically his company was here. He was the second largest employer in Tulsa for quite a while, like 4,000 people or something. So he was kicking butt. And so that's what happened, that's where it all came from. It's in Seismograph Service, which eventually went into Raytheon. But anyway, so
wow.
What was the question?
Wow. So the origins of Raytheon has to do with the Westby name then. Wow. That's a cool.
No comment. Raytheon bought my dad. So they were already going. My dad had a Seismograph Service company and they wanted him. So they bought him years ago. And now he was on the board of directors for a while, and then he retired. So, but Seismograph had a lot to do with finding oil, and he was really good at doing that. So he's a good oil man.
Yeah, and that kind of is a little bit, Paul. It's funny. I'm sure when you see Trig in the paddock, you probably wonder this, like a lot of people. He's sort of known as the other man in the black hat, besides I guess Johnny Cash. He was the man in black, but Trig is the man in the black hat, and if you look closely on his hat, it says "Oilfield Trash" on it. Paul, I'm sure you've wondered what that means. Do you know the origin of that one?
No, I don't. But I wanted to say something real quick. I think, Trig's one of those guys. I don't really know him very well, and I need to get to know him better. And this podcast is going to help me do that. But it's like no matter how bad of a day you're having at the track. For some reason, when I see him, he's always riding some kind of motorcycle, whether it's a scooter or whatever he's brought to the track. But he always brings a smile to your face, and I'm sure that's the same with you. But I just see the guy, and I'm like, oh my God, this is why we do this, for people like him, And he's been through a lot, and obviously with his son and everything, and it's like it's heartbreaking stuff, but it makes you so happy to see that he's got such a passion for what we do. That he's there every weekend. He's got a smile on his face. They have a great team. It's a real family unit. It's just, I don't know. I think if you could have a team that symbolized what Moto America is, I would think it would be Westby Racing. And I mean, I don't say that lightly either.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. So Trig, tell us, this is we've got some time on this podcast, so don't be afraid of telling the story the way it began. But for you personally, where and how did your passion for motorcycles get started? And not just riding motorcycles, but restoring them, fixing them, owning them, and then even racing them. And can you kind of give us where it started for you? Did that originate with your family even before you were born?
Yes, my father rode a Harley just like the one I have in Algeria, looking for oil back in the day. He mapped a lot of those countries, for oil. Back in that day, they used to jump in that thing and ride out in the middle of nowhere, and they called him Pebbles because he's always picking up rocks, and pecking on them with his little hammer to see if they had anything to do with oil. So his name his name was Pebbles, and he always talked about all the roughnecks are way bigger than him, and packing chrome 45s and stuff on their hip, and basically a Wild West, And he said so he was glad they liked him, but they called him Pebbles because he knew all about where the oil was. That was kind of interesting. But he rode that Harley all the way around there. I got a picture of him and his partner in the sidecar, and that's where I got the idea. I really wanted one of those, and a friend of mine was working, found some parts and started restoring one, and I got right in the middle of that, and next thing I know, I've got it. So, and I just wanted to see what he felt when he was riding that thing, what it felt like to ride that thing. Now I know, I can't, it's, you can do it, but yeah, it's definitely different from the bikes from today. But I mean, because you got to really watch what you're doing. But it's no problem. But it was fun to ride that thing and think of him out in the desert, zipping along the clouds of dust and stuff, and Arabs chasing him or whatever. I don't know what he had all sorts of stories about those days, and I only got a few of them. I wish I'd have talked to him a lot more about it. But to him, it's just a matter of fact. I was working.
Yeah, and so that's your 1924 Harley with the sidecar, and he had a sidecar on his as well, right? I mean, it's very
Yeah.
much similar to what you had or what he
Yeah, I have
had.
a sport sidecar that Harley used to sell, but we just built that one. I had a guy in Tulsa here that worked on airplanes, built that for us from the plans. But his sidecar is a little bit more rough and ready, like for really going out in the boonies, But mine's like a sport. I'm supposed to like they're racing them. I'm like, yeah, okay. But anyway, uh, that's what it is on that one. So, but anyway, it's can imagine them zipping along on that thing. Yeah, he told me stories, but my deal was I loved riding bicycles, and then I wanted something that I didn't have to pedal so much. So we started building like everybody has, I'm sure, doing motorcycles, an old frame and a lawnmower motor, put the thing together and killed ourselves, no brakes, pull the throttle with your teeth or whatever, the cable, whatever it took. And then the first time, and I rode a bunch of those, and then built them and stuff. And the first time I rode a Honda 50, 62 Sport 50, I was like, got on that thing. I was like, oh my God, this is like from the future. Had a clutch and, started and ran, and it felt like a powerhouse to me. Back in the day, I was like, wow, this thing really is strong. I never forgot the freedom of that. We're riding through basically pecan orchards, because this guy had a farm. He invited us up because his dad bought him one, and I've rode that thing through the pecan orchard. I said, come back sooner. You're taking too long. You got 4 other guys who are trying to ride this thing. So that Honda 50 got the wear, he definitely got the wear on it that day. We were all riding it. But I never forgot that. And now I have one, a Honda 50, just like that one, only white instead of black. And I ride it around the neighborhood and go, wow, this is what I was doing, huh? So yeah, that's what got me going. And from then on, it was I fell in love, and that was the end of it. I had to get bigger and better and go and keep going. And we're still doing it, still finding the best equipment and making it work. And it's just all so fun to get these and look at the old bikes. I love working on the old antique stuff because, well, man, back then the way we thought of things was totally different nowadays. The way we fix things, make things work. It's just so interesting to see everybody's mindset and stuff. It's like watching the Wright brothers or something, their stuff. Really fun to see. So compared to nowadays, where it's all like, God, this computer ain't set just right. It's able to slide right off. What computer? What are you talking about? So it's all different today, compared to when I was racing, even. So and I've learned a ton since I started doing this again. And Dane's the reason. He's the reason. He keeps poking me in the rear or whatever, keeping me going. He's not going to let me stop. He knows I have a passion, and he was from another planet. I'm telling you, another world he was. He left and went somewhere else, but he's still influencing me heavily. From some other dimension, he's poking me. Get up, do something, get out of here, let's go, ride a bicycle. So it's helping me. He's helping me.
Yeah. Tell us about when you kind of transition, you talked about that Honda, and you raced yourself in the AMA during an era with a lot of contemporaries. I think Kevin Schwantz possibly raced with you. Can you tell us about how you personally got started in racing, where your first race was, and what you did with it as a racer?
Yeah, I it was a big time on the street racing deal, and we just were about to kill ourselves doing topping up Z1s and 754s, doing crazy stuff. And then Hallett was our local track, 45 minutes away. And we're like, oh, let's go out there. So we took our bikes out there, like we're just going to ride out there. The guy said, "Who are you? What are you doing here? You got a license?" We're like, "Oh, yeah." So we had to load them up and take them back home, And then we made sure the second time we had our stuff together. We went out there with our street bikes and just had the most fun. And once I did that, I was like, oh my God, there's nothing in your way. There's no police. And I've been a big dirt bike guy. There's no stumps. There's no logs, rocks, nothing. It's just a wide open. You can just turn that thing wide open and see how fast it'll go. There's nothing in your way until you get to the next corner. But anyway, it was so much fun to see this big open place you can ride and slide around and have the best time. So again, that was our local track. That's where Dane learned to ride. And me, I did too, because it was just such a cool track. As we called it, the asphalt motocross, because it was basically lots of holes and potholes and tar messing up and just all sorts of stuff. But it was really a real challenge to ride the place. It was 4 different racetracks in one because there's 4 different surfaces. So Dane learned how to ride all 4 surfaces in the rain and the dry and everything. So we went to obvious different tracks. He could smoke them, and they're like, "How could you do this?" And it's just because he'd rode at Hallett. So Hallett was our big deal about learning, and I'd suggest that to anybody in this area, run Hallett big time. It'll teach you.
When you raced at Hallett, which of course Dane did, that's CMRA, and I know you're a legend, and as is Dane with that track, and they have the benefit every year, the Dane Westby Classic. Did it feel like from your transition from when you raced yourself to when Dane started riding? I mean, was it kind of a continuum there, or was there a little bit of time when you stopped racing and then when Dane got involved, or was there a time you were almost doing a little bit together?
Yeah, there was some time for sure. I stopped racing to raise the family, and just because I couldn't afford it, I bought 2 RC30s, and I was like, "What am I doing?" And I had to
Well,
sell one of them, and I still have the other one. Thank goodness I kept it. The you know the oh dang, what were we talking about? He got me up early too here.
yeah, no, that's okay. We're talking about the transition for when you
Yeah,
started.
it was about 4 years. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 years, and I watched my family grow up, and we went and rode XR80s, and I was like, he was on a Y Zinger, and his little guy on a Y Zinger, and I wouldn't let him ride it until he figured it out. So I said, you can't start it until you ride it. He rode it up down the driveway, pushed it up, rolled it down, pushed it up, rolled it down, did that a whole bunch of times. Then we started. Then I said, okay, you can start the motor. The first thing he did is run into the garage, and start crying. I said, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yeah." "How's the bike?" I said, "It's fine." "Oh, okay." Quit crying immediately. He said, "Let's go for more." So we got him on XR80s. Even on the Y Zinger, though, a friend of mine, we'd go to my house. I had a big backyard, and I'd ride an XR80, and my buddy ride an XR80. He's on the Y Zinger. Well, we used to smoke him. Then all of a sudden, he started beating us. We're like, wait a minute. So, and maybe it's the beer we're drinking. So we quit drinking beer. He still beat us on that Y Zinger. I was like, holy moly. So I hopped up my XR80 to 105 and didn't tell him. And I still couldn't beat him. I was like, on this Y Zinger, I was like, okay, we got something going here. So then I started putting him on XR80s. Some of the stuff he was doing was impossible. I mean, it was just like looking back at me, sliding sideways, smiling at me, like, try this, Dad. And then he goes zipping down the trail, and I'd be so astounded, I'd just go flying right by the corner, miss it completely. I couldn't believe I'd just seen what I saw. He'd up on the pegs, sliding and looking at me with a sly grin, like, I just smoked you, Dad. So yeah, he was good, and that's where we came from. And then I got him I said, you may be pretty good on one of these things. So I got an SV650, bought a used one from the shop here, and put him on that. And he went out to Hallett and said, drove it around a little bit. And said, I don't know if I'm made for this, Dad. I'm kind of wobbly and stuff. I said, just go have fun. Don't worry about beating anybody. Just have fun. So he did. His first race, he got a seventh. The next race, he's like third, and then second. And then he started winning all of them. I was like, golly, buddy, okay, let's go to the next step. So anyway, Hallett was a big thing, and that's what happened. I got him on XR80s. we used to go ride at the ranch a lot. It's just amazing what he was doing on that little thing. So that's where I got him into racing. If you can do that on an XR80, what can you do on a race bike? So that's where it started. I mean, he has always surprised me with stuff he can do on a motorcycle, any kind of bike, anywhere. Ride the dirt with a bald back tire on another XL80, and your back tire is not made for the dirt. He's still sliding around and still smoking. Golly. So he just had something there. I missed him so bad. I just missed him. But anyway, we'll get off of that. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's all right.
That's okay.
No.
He's obviously a talented kid, and you could see that right away. It's always kind of cool that first time your son actually beats you in whatever it is that he's good at. You're like, oh man, he's made it, and that's got to be cool to watch, especially with Dane and motorcycles.
I never told him that, but yeah, never wanted to let him know. But yeah.
And also it's funny because I remember my son's a really good golfer, and I'm okay. And I remember when he started beating me, he was a real little kid, and it was it's funny because I think he thought initially that I was letting him do that, but I wasn't about to let him do anything like that. But yeah, it is kind of cool when you see your son progress like that, and they've got some skills and some talent and something, and it's especially nice with Dane because he was able to carry that through and really do something with it. I remember a couple of years ago, God, it's probably longer than that, but you got to do a lap of COTA with Kevin Schwantz. What was that like?
Yeah. Oh man, I was like, what? I get to do what?
Was that your largest race, your largest ride in front of the largest spectator crowd, huh?
And Schwantz originally taught Dane, at Road Atlanta, had the 3-day world champion school. I took him to that. So, and Kevin took him personally aside and rode with him for like half an hour by themselves. And I was like, holy moly. And then of course they come in and they go over and Kevin's talking to Dane. I'm like dying to be in on the conversation, but I know if I go over there, I'll blow it, Dad showing up. So I just stayed back. But when he came over, I said, God, what'd you guys talk about? What was going on? Oh, just talking about, the weather and my dog. And, I'm like, what? No, what are you talking about? Yeah. He was like, racing's one thing, but I like to know what the people are like. I don't want to know what their loves and hates are and everything about them. I mean, racing is another deal completely. And this is what I wanted to find out. I was like, wow. So they talked about family and things, not racing. But it was still neat to watch him do that. So when we wanted to do that. I mean, I've always had a place in my heart for Kevin because he's so nice to Dane. So that happened. I was like, wow. You mean I'm good enough for that to happen to me? I was just loving it. I think it was Dane was good enough, but that doesn't matter. I was loving it. To ride around with him and pictures of it. Yeah, no kidding. Big honor.
Yeah, it's funny, Trig. I remember that, and I thought to myself, just personally, I mean, I'm the type that probably would maybe wilt a little bit from that situation of being out there in front of that big a crowd on that track, a world-class track, obviously, and with a Grand Prix champion. I shouldn't say MotoGP; it was before that, but you got on that bike, which was the super bike for the team. And you basically rode that thing around with pretty good speed, and you had no problems making that happen. So you've got incredible muscle memory from being a racer and riding. Well, I know you still ride a lot, but it seemed like really no big deal for you to just kind of do that. I was impressed that you were on that stage and did what you did. So nicely done there.
Well, thank you. I was, I had to look through tears some of the time getting around the racetrack when Kevin was with me, but the rest of the time. That's a great racetrack. I almost went off 2 or 3 times, but got a lot of runoff, so you straighten yourself out before you get there. So, yeah, I was having fun on that place. So I could go, I went there for a Cadillac thing, too, and I was smoking them. They're like, wow, you drive these cars? I was like, I didn't tell them I'd been around on a superbike on that thing. I was like, hurry up, you guys are in the way. Let's move. So they're like, well, you know how to drive pretty well. I was like, yeah, I didn't tell them. I'd been there before. That's the way you do it. A car, but anyway. So yeah, that was a really big deal to me. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, I was just excited to get there is, you had talked about you started out on a Honda and you've had a couple RC30s and you had the RC30 you still have at Jersey last year, and the thing's unbelievable. That thing is awesome.
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you is you've got quite a background in relationship with Honda. I love to talk to you about your stories about when you had the dealership. Can you talk about your Honda dealership and tell the fans about the fact that you would even spend the night there sometimes. Tell us about that, if you
Oh,
would.
that part wasn't so good. I spent the night there all night for 2 years in a row. I slept in one of the salesman's office with a sawed-off 12 gauge, and they had been robbing the heck out of me. So I was trying. It turned out to be an internal deal. Somebody inside was telling them what the deal was. But anyway, because I never got bothered for those 2 years. But before that, they kept hitting me, so I had to basically stay there to keep from happening. So that wasn't fun. But the actual Honda dealership, when it was cooking, that was really fun. When everybody was doing their job and we were selling motorcycles and making people happy, that was the best part of it. But you were pretty much on your own with Honda. They didn't, they didn't help you damn bit. It was all on you, and that's what started to change my mind about it. That's why I got out of it after 10 years. But
But
they
you had a
would,
full line. You had new bikes. You took in trades. You did the whole thing, service and everything, right,
yeah,
Trig?
I had everything but the cars. Had everything they'd let me have, and they wouldn't let me have cars. They said, "No, you can't have that. We'll let you have all the rest of the stuff." And we'll guarantee you no one can have it. But 2 years later, that changed, and all of a sudden Lowe's had it. So Honda lawnmowers and stuff. So that part of it was a little disappointing after pushing the lawnmowers for 2 years, whatever, making them sell like crazy, and all of a sudden Lowe's got it. But anyway, we'll go back to the motorcycle part of it was the best. And yes, I had a complete service department. Didn't have a dyno, but that wasn't there yet. No one knew about those so much. But we did do a lot of repair on everything, four-wheelers and used stuff and all the Hondas, any model, any make, if you wanted to. My basically what I said was I'm not afraid of any brand. I'm not afraid of any motorcycle. Bring it in, we can fix it. Because I had a really good team then. I got a super good team now, best ever, as far as I'm concerned. But that's what it was. Yeah, it was a full service deal, and I had a great time doing it. Like I said, for 10 years, and I said, okay, they don't care if I live or die. I think I'm going to do something different, and that's why I got out. But I still love motorcycles, and I still sold them when I started Kinetic Playground back up and got a dyno and, just did a little hot rod shop where I could play with my motorcycles and not have the corporate thing hanging over my head, which is what it was. You better do this or else. That kind of stuff. No, I'm not doing that. This is all my money is in this thing. It's my money. I'll do what I want. So that's kind of why I had to leave because I had my own way of doing stuff, as you can see. And I felt like a loser getting out of it, but I'm no better than that because I'm a winner. I just have the best team out there, I think. So, and we're winning. We're doing good, getting up there. We're trying to win. Oh, Cam's fast, baby, I'll tell you. But if you don't have somebody, as Dane used to say, if you don't have somebody faster than you, you'll never get any better. You got to have somebody faster to try to catch up to. And that's what he always did. And he always caught up to his rivals and beat them every time, So he just didn't make it long enough. That was his theory.
You bring up your team, Trig, and as I mentioned earlier, it seems like a real family bonding team there. Talk a little bit about Matthew Skoltz and your relationship with him. I mean, he's obviously a hell of a rider, and he got second in the first race this year, and he looks he looks confident, he looks comfortable, and he looks set to have another good season. Talk a little bit about him and kind of your feelings about him.
Well, Matt is a special. Go ahead. Matt is a special case. We were, after Josh got hurt, we started looking around a little bit, had to. And Ed Sullivan and I, one of the crew chief, now we were talking to each other. I said, hey, this Matt guy looks pretty good. Why don't you go over here to turn 5 and I'll go over here to turn 10 or whatever. I don't remember the exact corners, and we'll come back and have a little powwow. So we did that in just practice. And both came back and said, he's great. He's pretty good, man. I said, yeah, because I saw him mess around with Danny and one of my good buddies, Eslick, and he was right there with him. If he can be with Danny, he's probably pretty good enough to look at, that's what I was thinking. I know Danny pretty well, so I thought, okay, he's pretty good. So that's what happened. And then as time went, we were like, we need to look at this guy if he's even interested. Well, he had that two-race deal with somebody else. So we thought, you know what, let's go down and talk to the team manager. Let's don't try to go in the back door. Let's go in the front door. Let's try to be good guys. I'm not going to go and pimp him and leave them guys. Let's go see. So we went and talked to him, and the guy was not even interested. In fact, he kind of got mad at us. Get out of here. I got him signed up for a year, 2 years or something. I was like, oh, well, okay, sorry. Sorry we bothered you. So we were walking through the pits, me and Chuck, and here comes Matt, walking by. I said, hey, Matt, congratulations on your 2-year deal. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, the deal you just got with a leg breath there. I mean, the other guy. And he said, I don't have a deal. I don't have anything with that guy. Here, I'll be right back. And, I guess we made him mad. He went off and came back later and said, I'd like to ride for you. Can we do that? I said, yeah, but you got this other deal going. So let me race this last deal for him. And then I'm with you. I want to be with you guys. And we were just like, whoa. And as Matt's mom says, it was a hand and glove deal. Like it was just made to happen. So I thought, okay, Dane, what are you doing here? I love it. I like this guy. He's good. And man, he treats me like I'm his dad. He hugs me and tells me he loves me. And I tell him the same thing. He's like filling in for the Daner. It's pretty interesting. He has a lot of the same attributes and, things he doesn't do right, but he does do right on this other stuff. And just, you know what I mean? He's a young guy, still. So he's still younger than Dane at this time. But anyway, that's how we got him and wanted him. And he came to us. So we went through the front door and did it the right way. And it rewarded us by having him come to us. So that's the way to do it, guys. Don't try to, basically bribe him to come from their team to your team. Talk to the front guy first. I'm sure he's not going to be happy about it. It's the rider that matters. If he's not happy with that team, he's not going to be as happy, go as good. And that's why he's doing so good with this team. All the guys really like him, and they all work for him so well. Chuck, Ed, Danny, Frank, Dustin, Marsh, Herschel, they all work their butts off for him because they see there's so much talent in there. And his dad told me when he was a little kid, they had this big driveway that come down to the house. It was a big hill, and at the end of it was a garage. And he comes zipping down that hill on his bicycle and trying to make the corner. And sometimes he wouldn't or run out of the garage. And his dad came out and said, "Are you okay?" He got a big knot on his head and bleeding. He said, "Yeah, I'm fine, Dad. I'm going to do that again until I get it done." And go back up the top of the hill and do it again. He didn't care. He was going to make it happen. And that really got my attention when I heard that as a little kid. He's that committed to doing it. And he really is. He's so sorry when he falls off. I mean, I was like, he's so sorry about the deal with Bobby. And I said, man, don't have rear view mirrors on that thing. It's not your fault, buddy. You just ride like you're riding. It's great. Finally got the bike. I was happy on it, so.
It's funny, Trig, that you'd say that because I was going to say, Paul, well, you'll see us in the media center when we're working and, we're watching the race or whatever, or mostly practice or qualifying. And, like, for instance, at Road America, when that first time when Matthew went down and, he's trying as hard as he can. And Paul and I always just feel so bad for him and for how he tries so hard for the team. The whole thing was just like, oh man. And then this is what happens though. Then he goes and he puts it on the podium in second place in the race. And it's like you said, he went down the hill and hit the wall, but he had a crash at Road America, but he overcomes it and he comes back and makes it happen. That's got to be a good feeling for you guys on the team.
I tell him, man, don't you scratch my shiny bike. I'll whip your ass, damn it. Don't be scratching my custom paint and stuff. But anyway, yeah, it's all a joke, He tries so hard. I mean, I watched him in this low side there in the corner, and you could watch the front tire losing traction and gaining, losing, drain, and finally said, "See ya. I'm not going to hold anymore," with sliding down the racetrack. So yeah, he's trying, but how are you going to find out what the deal is unless you do just that? You got to see where your limit is. Okay, next time I'll do different than around that corner.
So. Yeah, got to find that limit. Hey, Trig, I've never asked you this before, so I don't know how this answer is going to come. Paul loves it when I ask these questions that even I'm a little nervous or hesitant about. He doesn't always go well, but I know you well enough. We have a good relationship. What do you think Dane would think of Matthew Scholes?
Oh, I think they'd be friends. I mean, I think there'd be competition there because he'd be on another team and Dane would have to beat him, have to race with him. But I think they'd find out what their deal is. I'm sure Dane would test him and Matt would test Dane and they go, okay, this guy can ride. I got to respect, and that, it'll be like Dane rode all those endurance races. So he knew how fast to go and what not to do so he could finish the goddamn race. He'd give him a room. So Matt and him would figure it out too, because I think Matt would be a good endurance guy too with a little bit of, that's what I put Dane in endurance stuff. So he'd learn how to, ride or seat time like crazy. So, but I think they'd be friends. I definitely do, man. The way Matt is, the way Dane was, I think they'd be fast friends. Be talking about women and stuff in no time. So anyway,
No doubt about that. I'm
yeah,
sure. Yeah. Of course, Dane got along well with I've never met anybody that didn't know Dane and loved the kid. I mean, everybody thought he was fantastic. You kind of led me into this next question. So it's interesting how when I ask about how Matthew and Dane would get along, and you said something about, will they be on different teams? So, we often will get asked this, and I don't know if you're personally ever asked this, but the question is, the team has got such a big footprint and such notoriety, Westby Racing in the paddock. The question always comes up about, why aren't there two riders? And I know Cody Wyman's the second rider this year in Junior Cup, but people wonder why the team doesn't have a second Superbike rider. And I know it takes money. I understand that, Trigg, I don't want to diminish that part, but you even kind of said it would, if it was Dane, it wouldn't be Matthew. And Matthew thinks of you as kind of his dad when he's over here a little bit. He says that a lot. Is there something about the team being a one-rider team? Is it because you like that personal relationship with that one rider? Or have you ever thought somewhere down the road maybe there will be a second rider if, things like the money and all that is handled, or sponsors can support it or whatever?
yes, I think a second rider would be a great thing. The deal is, the reason I haven't done that is because we haven't won yet. Okay, I mean, in the big time, I need to win, concentrate until we win, and then okay, now we can move on to the next deal. But I want to put everything and concentrate on one guy. I know that's kind of all your eggs in one basket type of thing, but if it's done, then we can win with that guy. Then we can, there will be sponsors come and say, hey, I'd like to help you get a semi, whatever. I don't care about all that. I'm winning. I don't care if I show up in a pickup truck. I'm just gonna. That's all I care about. That's why I'm concentrating on one deal, and that's winning this deal. And we're getting closer. So if we can get there, yeah. And then even if we don't, I mean, if the notoriety builds to the point to where they like us enough that somebody comes in and says, yeah, because we had one guy, we thought he was a big time spender, and like, no, this is what it costs to do this. This is not big time. If you want this kind of exposure in this team, we need more help than that. But anyway, here, I don't want to be too proud about it either, but I can be. I'm not gonna. If somebody comes and don't really like them or whatever, they keep their money. I got the money to do this, but the deal is I'd really like to have somebody come in with really a professional deal, and I can help them as long I can put their name all over stuff. Just help me with the financial part of it. We'll win. I'll get another guy. I'd love to have two guys, as long as Matt gets along with him. But I think that would be a dream team. That Matt and Dane, oh my God, that'd be the best. So, but yeah, someday I'd love to have two riders. Definitely would. Because right now I'm just concentrating, like I say, on this team and making it happen. That's why I didn't have a giant. When I win, start doing good, well, maybe it's time to expand and buy a semi and get crazy. But there's no reason to look cool unless you are cool. I'm not going to look like I'm somebody if we're not somebody yet. So that's what Dane always said. I don't want to sign. I don't want to do any autographs. I haven't won anything. Why would they want my autograph? That kind of deal. But go ahead.
Trigg, when I mean, I know you probably feel the same way with racing. It's like there's some struggles, there's some ups, and there's some downs. Like Matthew crashes in practice, and the team's got to put the bike together, and Matthew feels bad, and everybody feels bad, but they bust their ass, they get the thing together, and then the next day he goes out and finishes second. When Road America wasn't really and not a good indication of that because of the social distancing and everything. But when that team gets to go to the winner's circle and they get to celebrate, whether that's a win, a second, or a third place, don't you think that's what kind of makes it all worthwhile?
Yes.
I mean, there's no other feeling like that. Would you agree?
Yes, none. John, I mean, one time when Dave was on the podium and Ulrich came over to me and said, "You need to enjoy this while he's up there." I said, "What do I do? Make everybody go in slow motion?" I mean,
Right.
you only get so many minutes of everybody screaming and yelling, and then it's back to the pits to get ready for the next one. But we love that. It's just like a drug to us. I mean, it's just so good to be there. I mean, people all looking at us, just like Dave used to say. They're all looking at me. I got the trophy, the champagne. There's very few times I'll be up here. I'll be the guy. This is so cool. So yeah, It's really a big thing. Everybody's hugging each other. I'm loving it. It's
Yeah,
the best thing ever.
it is addicting.
Oh God, yeah. And if you know, it's the agony defeat. The thrill of victory, the agony defeat, same old thing.
Right.
Yeah, Trig, I mean, you were on the podium with Dane a few times. I'll never forget that weekend that he did the double in Daytona Sport Bike at Barber, and it was so hot that weekend, and his conditioning was so high. He was so naturally gifted, his physical talent and his fitness. And you were on the podium with Josh Day a bunch of times, and you've been on the podium with Matthew, obviously, including winning Superbike races on a super stock or a stock 1000 bike. That feeling of being on the podium and that feeling of success that you get from your thinking back to when you raced, is it the same feeling? Do you feel as if you won the race yourself? I
Oh
guess
yeah,
is what I'm wondering.
yeah. You feel like you did it yourself because everybody goes, "Good job, Trig." I said, "Yeah, I got a little trouble in turn 5, but wait a minute, it wasn't me on the bike." So everybody says, "Good job, Trig." I said, "Yeah, it was hell, I tell you. What a race." But what was hell on me was sitting in front of the monitors, watching the thing. Here he is. Oh no, he's not. He wasn't in. He was in the lead. Now he's not in the lead. Well, now he's coming back. Now he's somebody took that. It's one thing after another. So yeah, if you're in front of the monitors, it's hell. So sometimes I go out on the racetrack and just pick a corner, and I happened to pick the corner at Elkhart where he got taken out last time. I was standing right there going, "Oh no, no, no!" Screaming and yelling and stuff, just like a high school girl or something. But that's what happens to you. You get so involved in this stuff. It's hard not to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Trig, we're going to wrap this thing up, and it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. As I mentioned earlier, your team is something special, and you're something special, and you make everybody happy when they see you, and you have the ability to light up a room and light up the paddock. So I want to personally thank you for being a big part of Moto America. I know you put a lot of money, a lot of effort, and a lot of passion into being there every week. People don't understand what it takes to put together a team, not to mention a successful team like you've been able to do with all your guys and Chuck and the group. Do a hell of a job, and they do a wonderful job for Moto America. So I want to thank you for that, as well as for coming on the show. I know Sean has deep feelings for you guys, and Sean, thanks for having us today and for getting Trig on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad we got Trig on. I mean, I was kind of realizing that each round, one of the highlights of my weekend is always to spend a little bit of time with Trig, and it ends up we go down some rabbit holes and talk for a while, and I forget what time it is or what my next thing has to be doing. But Trig, I have to thank you personally for all those conversations, and like Paul said, for your passion for our sport and your remembrance of Dane and keeping it going for him, but also what you're doing to keep American road racing in the limelight, and helping it grow in Moto America. It's just tremendous, and huge thanks to you.
Well, thank you. And I don't know what I've done to get this team that I got. Why they would come to me, I'm not sure. But boy, I got some really good. I've been looking at other teams, going, I wish I had that guy. And now they're all on my team. Thank you guys. I thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. And I also want to say thank you to the fans for listening to our podcast. Please subscribe to Moto America Live Plus, our popular subscription streaming service. And also don't forget to get your race weekend tickets, especially for this next round coming up at Road America. I know Road America is a special track for Trig, and we'll have, I'm sure, a lot of fans there. We're excited for them to be there, and so become a part of that. Really, wherever you're located, make it to that track or one of our other ones on the schedule coming up. And the way you do that is go to motoamerica.com, and there are links to click on Live Plus and also get your race weekend tickets. Yeah, thanks again, Trig.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Paul.
My pleasure.